Yeah, so I decided to make a live, but um, I guess YouTube's limiting the mobile streaming now. I mean, this app just gets worse and worse, honestly. I mean, not only did they take the dislikes off, if you check the majority of Biden's streams from like PBS, NBC, ABC, all that, the comments are limited now. On some of them, it said comments only available to those selected by channel or something like that. So that's the reason why I'm coming from recording this and then I'll upload it after. I wanted a live comment on Biden Sleepy Joe. You know what I mean? And for the record, I'm on the left. I'm not pro Trump, but I'm pro truth. So in other words, I don't really care what party is lying to me. I'm gonna call you a liar. You know what I mean? And if a party does right or a politician does right, I'm gonna commend you for it. All right. So little context. NATO pushing for war in Ukraine and violating treaties. Uh, Essentially, Russia went in to defend certain regions that were getting bombed by Ukraine. But the narrative is Russia invades Ukraine. So that's basically the propaganda we're living under. And here we got Sleepy Joe. So we'll see what this is about right now.
Together, along with our allies, we are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions.
They're not as powerful as they used to be because the SWIFT systems is on the downfall, really, because China and Russia have already made alliances and cooperations. They created their own financial region, and they've invited people from around the world, Africa, South America, etc. It's not this exclusive club of white nations that SWIFT is perpetuating. Violent. What regime is more violent than the one we're under right now in America? Think about that. I mean, do I need to say Yemen? I mean, do I need to say Syria? I mean, do I need to mention what we did to Libya? I mean, what we did to Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam. I mean, damn, the list continues, and not just recent. I'm talking, it's been like this. Decades of U.S. imperialism against the poor third world nations. I should say impoverished third world nations, because you know what I mean. I mean that's basically what happened. Biden has one of the lowest approval ratings of any president in history.
Has already lost 30% of its value. The Russian stock market has lost 40% of its value.
Yeah, that's why now they're messing with the cryptocurrencies. So the more the West pushes these countries into these positions, what they don't understand is the rope that they're creating is gonna be tied around their neck. All right, like cryptocurrencies are gonna be dominating the global economy. That's just a fact. The dollar is dying. And in fact, because it's dying now, they're gonna try to make an electric digital dollar. That's what the move is, so that they can say who can and can't spend it. It's a contract after all, right? It's a smart contract.
Engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event of...
All right, so basically he just admitted that the U.S. is not going to go into Ukraine. They already know what will happen to them if they go into Ukraine. All right, it's one thing to have Ukraine go in and continue their aggression against the eastern parts of Ukraine, right? But it's a whole nother thing for the U.S. and NATO and the European Union know that Russia is not just some country that they can just topple. Like, Russia is going to punch back, so they understand this. This is all posturing. They, all they can do is actually say sanctions, sanctions, sanctions. Germany, okay, we're going to cut the Nord Stream 2. right? And that's all part of their agenda. At the end of the day, that's going to help all the developing nations, because the rich nations in Europe are only going to be hindered by this. Don't forget, Russian gas is cheaper than what the U.S. is offering Europe. I mean, that's just a fact.
That they will not tolerate anyone who tries to take their country backwards.
Yeah, backwards like you guys helped do in 2013, 2014 with the Maidan coup. You know, where you literally took them back to World War II and gave Nazis power. Oh yeah, right. Every tool meaning just sanctions, because if they make the mistake of trying to fly into Ukraine with some aircraft, it might be interpreted a certain way. You know, it's one thing to go into Iraq and blow that shit up and, you know, try to establish a puppet regime in there, take the oil, make side agreements with oil companies through executive orders. It's a whole nother thing to have a first world nation that has nuclear powers, that has intercontinental ballistic missiles, that has all kinds of super advanced hypersonic missiles. You know what I mean? Don't forget, in the 80s, that was the beginning of the fall of America. Before World War II, America was literally the king of the world. And it reached its apex around the 50s, 60s. Around the 70s, started going down. In the 80s, it became a debtor nation. Before, they used to lend money. Then in the 80s, they became a debtor nation. They're borrowing money. And really, I guess the beginning was 73, when they got off the gold standard.
Europe, a more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment, and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test. It's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from
it doesn't need to take time. It's just that you guys need to stop fucking with, you know, violating treaties. I mean, don't forget, that's the history. That's the history of this nation. It was like, okay, back in the day, it was Native Americans, and, you know, and then there was the colonizers. And then the colonizers were like, you know what? Just go past that one river and we will sign this treaty. We won't go past that river. That's your land and we'll stay over here. And then what happened? They crossed that river. And then, you know what, actually, let's sign another treaty. But this time, you see that mountain, go over that mountain. And we'll stay on this side of the mountain. We'll live in peace. And then they violate that treaty. Hundreds of treaties violated. And the same thing's happening right now. The only thing is, like, imperialism will kick you under the table. It'll smile and kick you under the table. And then when you react, imperialism's like, look, he's reacting. He's invading. The whole time, them kicking you under the table and shit.
My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up. It was felt throughout the family.
Exactly. Thanks to you, now we're living under severe inflation. Because all you do is keep printing dollars. You have the Federal Reserve just cranking these out. What happens? If there's a large supply of something, what happens to the value? The value goes down. It's basic economics, supply and demand. A higher supply of dollars means lower demand, okay? Means lower value. That's what's going on right here. It really isn't that hard once you understand what capitalism does to economies, including its own.
Cut the cost of healthcare insurance.
Yeah, they cut the cost, right? But he could easily sign into law universal health care, just eliminating any cost at all, giving Americans access to a viable healthcare system.
American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind.
Left no one behind. This guy is a joke. Couldn't even give the citizens $2,000 and shit. Like, I mean, let's keep it 100. And it worked. That's why I'm very unpopular. And it worked. That's why We're at the brink of World War III. And it worked! This guy is a clown. Weekend at Bernie's president over here? Clown. Besides the fact of his racist history. Let's not forget, this guy has a racist ass history and fate against busing. You know, one of the authors of the crime bill that put minorities in prison, creating an industrial prison complex. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. I mean, and keep in mind, I'm on the left. All right, and Biden's in the center right, and you got the Republicans just straight up fascists. So you can understand the dynamic of what's going on over here.
But that trickle-down theory led to a weaker economic growth, lower wages, bigger deficits, and a widening gap between the top and everyone else in nearly a century. Look, Vice President Harris and I ran for office, and I realize we had fundamental disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America. Educate Americans. Grow the workforce. Build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because we know. Because we know. Because we know when the middle class grows,
the myth of a middle class still pervades the American political scene. I mean, that is literally the definition of a carrot and stick approach. You know what I mean? They're over here keeping people reaching for a middle class when the rich just keep getting richer, the poor keep getting poorer, and that mythological middle class that they keep talking about is basically non-existent. You're either rich or you're not. I mean, you can either afford to eat, have a house, or, you're basically selling your labor. There's no way around it.
We're done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade. And
look. Why are these Democrats so happy when he's not saying shit? I mean, this is why a lot of people get turned off, from politics, because it's so fake. It's like when Trump was there, they're like, yeah, Trump, all these Republicans, right? And then the Democrats are quiet. Right now, the Democrat is in power, so the Democrats, oh yeah, let's go. He's like, we're gonna create good jobs. Yeah, good jobs. How are you gonna do that? Are you going to create good union jobs like we used to have back in the day? You're going to go ahead and reduce the military budget, bring some of that money back into the national budget so we can actually build some of these bridges, infrastructure, create jobs, build universities, create less prisons. No, I'm going to continue the same shit. This is literally lip service. All right? We're talking about in America where you have an increasing homeless population, okay? I mean, and it only gets worse. Housing keeps getting more expensive. Food keeps getting more expensive. Medical bills keep getting more expensive. The dollar keeps losing value, and if it increases value, it's maybe 2%, and then it loses it again. Because a dirty secret in America is that the value of the dollar normally decreases between 3 and 1% annually on average.
We're going to do it by buying America.
They're going to buy American. How are they going to do that when the capitalist system, in America, they used to create a bunch of products in the middle of America, what's now known as the Rust Belt. But because capitalism eats itself, these rich people, which have no loyalty to country, they have a loyalty to their revenue, to their bottom line, to their profits, so they can give a shit about anyone living in the middle of the country. If they can get the same product for cheaper, they're going to go ahead and do that. So that's why you see the shift to Mexico, the shift to China. And what did those countries do? They created a national industry now. They're like, okay, you want the cheap products? We'll give them to you. But we're going to have these factories. We're going to have the capacity to keep producing. Well, you guys are gonna lose that capacity and be prisoners to our exports. You see?
That will make record investments in emerging technologies and American
Really,
manufacturing. We
really.
used to invest almost 2% of our GDP in research and development.
And what happens with that research and development? No, it happens, but then they privatize through what's known as a free enterprise system. They privatize the research, give it to companies, private companies that then make profits off of the research that you paid for. And they sell it back to you. Thank you for paying for the research that now we own and will now charge you to use. But thank you for developing that technology, all that R&D. Thank you, appreciate that. That's what happens with vaccines. A lot of these patents. That's why do you think the whole battle between you got the vaccines and the ivermectin situation. Ivermectin's too cheap. I mean, let's keep it 100. That's what it is. They want to sell these tests and these vaccines for hundreds of dollars when there's solutions and different options that are proven effective, but they're too cheap. They don't want that for you. They want to bilk the shit out of you.
Technology is yet to be invented, but that's just the beginning. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, who's here tonight. I don't know where Pat is. Pat, there you go. Pat, stand up.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know where Pat is. Where you at? When he squinted his eyes, he looked like he gained 200 years. And then when there's viable options, what happens? They destabilize those candidates, even within America.
To 100 billion. That would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. And all they're waiting for is for you to pass this bill. So let's not wait any longer.
Yeah, let's pass this bill. Then I'll make sure all these contributors, these campaign contributors, all the donorocracy, the consultocracy gets their share. They get their dibs. You know? You remember what happened with the PPP loans?
Just look around and you'll see an amazing story. The rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in America. The revitalization of American manufacturing. Companies are choosing to build new factories here when just a few years ago they would have gone overseas. That's what's happening. Ford is investing $11 billion in electric vehicles, creating 11,000 jobs across the country. GM is making the largest investment in history.
This guy is perhaps one of the most uninspiring presidents in the history of presidents.
69,000 new manufacturing jobs were created in America last year alone. Folks, powered by people I've met like JoJo Burgess from
JoJo. You got two. If you got two first names, two last names, or two first and middle names, two middle last names, I mean, I don't know. Parents were kind of uncreative, man. They're not original. Like, yeah, let's call Glenn. Hey, JoJo.
Sheriff Brown says it's time to bury the label Rust Belt.
What was I talking about? The Rust Belt that you helped kill. This guy right here is not trying to pose himself like some kind of hero or something. When this guy voted for all that shit, he voted for NAFTA, voted for the Iraq War, voted for a bunch of shit that helped create the quagmire that is the American capitalist economy. Like, come on, bro. Cut that shit out. So what can you do about it? I can think of a couple things. I mean, how about audit the Federal Reserve? And let's go ahead and put a private investigator on there, special counsel. I mean, there's plenty we can do. Let's see where that money's going. Let's see how we can, cut some of that fat.
So you didn't have people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed. The panic also disrupted the global supply chain. Factories closed.
Global supply chain that you were supposed to investigate. We know these guys are manipulating the supply chain. They're making more money than they've ever made. And if anything goes wrong, they say, "Oh, COVID. It's because of COVID."
And guess what? Prices of automobiles went way up, especially used vehicles as well. And so we have a choice. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poorer. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages.
That's a solution? Lower your costs? You dumb motherfucker. These guys are making billions off of that shit. Increasing. Literally, the lumber has gone up through the roof. And if you check some of these interviews with these lumber CEOs, they're like, yeah, we increased it about 20 to 30% just because. Like, there's no actual shortage. Come on, man. So basically, create jobs, make it in America. That's what this speech boils down to. And Russia bad. You can see why this guy is so unpopular. You can see why this lacks. So now the Congress is saying USA, USA. Okay.
I call it building a better America.
Oh, there he is coughing a lung out. I call it building America. Fucking
17 Nobel
bum.
laureates in economics said my plan will ease long-term inflationary pressures. Top business leaders.
You know what would really decrease inflationary pressure? If you audited the Federal Reserve, cut the borrowing of money from these private banks that own Congress, and have the Treasury issue out Treasury notes. That's one way you can do it. But you're not going to do that because the people that own Congress, that own your campaign, own your entire cabinet, your vice president, everything, will not allow you to do that. All right? Not everybody is stupid. So some of us actually like to read. We see what's going on. We see through the charade, the facade of this flag waving. And we see it's not about red, white, and blue. It's about that green. If you don't understand that, then you think it's about red, white, and blue spreading democracy, freedom, you're lost, man. It's about these rich capitalists waging wars, continuing the Pentagon system, and having a monopoly over the major industries of this country. The owners. It's about the owners of this country.
Your ability to look your child in the eye, to be the parent you expect yourself to be. I really mean to think about that. That's what I think about. You know, yesterday, Josh was here tonight, but yesterday
this guy's a joke, man.
Happy birthday, buddy.
I swear to God, this guy's like a goddamn joke.
For Joshua and 200,000 other young people with type 1 diabetes, let's cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month.
Cap it?
So everyone can afford it. And drug companies will do very, very well.
Well, of course they're going to do very, very well. That's why you're only going to cap it. You're not actually going to make a change. You're not going to bring universal health care. Instead, everyone should pay. Instead of every American has a right to health care and has the right to improve their health. You know? Like FDR said with his economic Bill of Rights. Don't forget that costing of the pharmaceutical is only 10. I believe it was 10 medicines that they were going to review. He could easily take the patents off of the vaccine, allowing anybody in the world to produce the vaccine. If that's really what he was concerned about.
Investment tax credits to weatherize your home and your business, to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more. Lower the price of electric vehicles, saving another $80 a month that you're not going to have to pay at the pump. Folks, the third thing we can do to change the standard of living for hardworking folks is cut the cost of child care. Cut the cost of child care. Folks,
That's a dog whistle right there. That right there, he said that for the unions. I'm gonna tell you that one right now.
I was a single dad for 5 years, raising 2 kids. I had a lot of help, though. I had a mom, a dad, a brother, and a sister that really helped. But middle class and working folks shouldn't have to pay more than 7% of their income to care for the young children. My plan would cut the cost of child care in half for most families and help parents, including millions of women who left the workforce during the pandemic because they couldn't afford child care, to be able to get back to work, generating economic growth. But my plan doesn't stop there. It also includes home and long-term care, more affordable housing, pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds. All these will lower costs to families. And under my plan, nobody, let me say this again, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an additional penny in new taxes. Not a single penny.
$400,000. So the top 1%. Bro, are you serious?
My guess is
Nobody.
secret ballot in this floor that we'd all agree that the present tax system ain't fair. We have to fix it. I'm not looking to punish anybody. But let's make corporations and wealthy Americans start paying their fair share. Look, last year...
This guy's such a joke.
Like Chris Coons and Tom Carper and my distinguished congresswoman, we come from the land of corporate America.
You sure do come from corporate America. That's the truest thing you've ever said.
And I still won 36 years in a row. The point is, even they understand they should pay just a fair share. Last year, 55 of the Fortune 500 companies earned $40 billion in profit and paid zero in federal taxes.
That's true. That's true. That's the American taxpayer system, though. It's not fair, but it's been created like that on purpose by the same rich people that own Congress. So when you have a dumbass like this, who himself benefits from that system, and he says, oh yeah, we're gonna rein in and have people that make over a certain amount pay their fair share. How the fuck is he gonna fucking pass that when the people that he's trying to tax own Congress? This is lip service. This guy is full of shit, is what he is. And if he does, he's gonna increase the capital gains tax by a little. All right, instead of raising the capital gains tax way up and reducing the income tax. That's what would help the average American, the guy that's working for his dollar every day, reduce his. And the guy who has so much money that he's making money, having his money make more money, tax that at a higher rate. That's what would make sense. But no, he's going to do a little here, a little there. He's not going to shake the system up. He can't. If he shakes the system up, his donors go somewhere else.
It undermined the watchdogs, the job of those to keep pandemic relief funds being wasted. Remember we had those debates about whether or not those watchdogs should be able to see every day how much money was being spent, where it was going to the right place? In my administration, the watchdogs are back. And we're going to go after the criminals who stole billions of relief money meant for small business and millions of Americans. Tonight, I'm announcing that the Justice Department will soon name a chief prosecutor for pandemic fraud.
All right. Well, can't be mad at that. We'll see who they get. We'll see who they get.
I think we all agree. Thank you. By the end of this year, the deficit will be down to less than half of what it was before I took office. The only president ever to cut the deficit by more than $1 trillion in a single year. Lowering your cost also meant demanding more competition. I'm a capitalist.
He's a dirty capitalist. And it's actually capitalism that eats itself. capitalism leads to exploitation, alienation. It's just like it's literally like I believe it's called a Kuboros. It's like that snake that eats itself and keeps it. Like that's what capitalism is. That's what happened to the Rust Belt. We had workers and producers in the middle of the country, but capitalists and these industrialists said, you know what, we can get those same products somewhere else, so let's go ahead and move over there. That's what happened, killing their own working class. So right now, when they're trying to rebuild it, it's harder to rebuild the working class when they could have sustained it, made less profit, but sustained it. They chose to get larger profits and kill it. So that's why we're here right now.
And as Wall Street firms take over more nursing homes, quality in those homes has gone down and costs have gone up. That ends on my watch. Medicare is going to set higher standards for nursing homes and make sure loved ones get the care they deserve and that they inspect and they will look at closely. We're also going to cut costs to keep the economy going strong and giving workers a fair shot. Provide more training and apprenticeships, hire them based on skills, not just their degrees. Let's pass the Paycheck Fairness Act and paid leave. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. He's still on that tip in 2022. That's a dog whistle to the black voters right there. This motherfucker does not give a shit about historical black colleges. Let's keep it 100. This guy's a racist. Closet racist. The only difference is, like, when Trump was in power, everyone knew he was a racist. So like a lot of the progressives or socialists or even the centrist Democrats were like, no, that guy's a racist, don't trust him. But then Biden, who has a history of being a racist, working with KKK members, against busing, he gets now this jacket that gets basically, placed on him that has, like, Democrat, so, pro immigrants' rights, for minority rights. He has this jacket, but the person inside has literally fought against the interests of minorities and for the interests of the banks. His whole political career has been helping the big guy against the little guy. But you hear this motherfucker talk, yeah, I was raised in Scranton. I was first in my class and all this shit that later on is proven that was bullshit. The guy's a goddamn plagiarizer. I mean, let's keep it 100. This guy that forced people into the mandates, right? And now they're like, oh, you can go ahead and take your mask off. The first was get the vaccine, we'll take the mask off. Now they're like, well, you got vaccinated, clearly that you can still catch it. You might reduce your chances of dying, but yeah, sorry about that. We kind of said you could take your mask off. Keep it on. In fact, double mask. Oh, you double vaxxed? Double mask. Wait, you're double vaxxed and double mask? Booster. Like, these motherfuckers are stupid as fuck, man. I swear to God. And for the record, I got COVID being double vaxxed. So that shit is a lie. And we know that the vaccines, they're hiding data from us. That was just reported not too long ago, that the CDC is withholding, and some of these pharmaceuticals are withholding evidence of some of the effects. But yet, where's the investigation for that? Why isn't anyone being held accountable for this? Well, we know who finances the media. This segment sponsored by. That's basically how they get around it. They pay for commercials. You know how much a commercial costs?
Pfizer's working overtime to get us 1 million pills this month and more than double that next month. And now we're launching the test.
If you saw the comments, Like, it's not just me. I'm tempted to just show you the comment, and I'm watching this on on a channel that's kind of known for being progressive. Kind of progressive. It has a centrist and it has a right winger. But even the chat on here, if you see a bunch of clown emojis, like General Dynamics owns you. Like I mean, I'm literally gonna read some of these. I can't make this shit up. I literally can't make this shit up. Watch. General Dynamics owns you. Oh great, he's giving all our money to Pfizer when the pandemic is over. It's like, unless you're unvaccinated, because you defunded treatments. And then someone put ivermectin. I mean, it just honestly, it's evidence of how this awakening is unstoppable. Honestly, like the human psyche and the human will lean towards truth always. And capitalism is based on lies, so it's only natural that deep down the human is a socialist being. The human is a social being. I mean, there's no way around it. You have to be converted into a capitalist. It is the way it is. When you have some kind of intelligence, you know what that program looks like. But when you're just a dummy, you learn it and you're like, you know what? I don't give a shit if that guy's living under the bridge, or if that person's hurt, or what this does. I mean, what this does to that. Like that doesn't even factor in. There's so much money in this country. There's enough for everybody, but it's monopolized. A lot of this money it's perpetuated through trusts and C corps and LLCs and different other economic instruments of wealth preservation. The Ford Foundation, the Heritage Foundation, the Rand Corporation, all these instruments, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Koch Brothers Foundation, these billionaire entities, their whole purpose is to maintain the wealth that has been accumulated, and that this wealth is taxed at the absolute minimum in order to perpetuate the accumulation of wealth for generations, the generational wealth. This is what we're up against. This guy, so I blocked this motherfucker out for I don't even know what he's talking about right now.
We've lost so much in COVID-19. Time with one another. The worst of all, much the loss of life. Let's use this moment to reset. So stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line. See it for what it is, a god-awful disease. Let's stop seeing each other as enemies. Start seeing each other
like you're doing to the Russians right now, like you're doing to the Venezuelans right now, like you're doing to the Cubans right now. All this country does is spot enemies left and right and wages their full economic force against them, giving them sanctions, blockading them. And then you got this dumb motherfucker over here like, let's be a world of peace. Let's all cooperate, when they're the principal villains preventing the cooperation and harmonious existence on this planet.
They were responding to a 9/11 call when a man shot and killed him with a stolen gun. Officer Moore was 27 years old. Officer Rivera was 22 years old. Both Dominican Americans who grew up in the same streets.
I have to say, Joe Biden's stories are the most unoriginal, the most uninteresting, and probably the most cringe of all stories. You know what I mean? Like, even as much as you can hate Trump, he can at least hold your attention. He was like, I used to know this guy, and he just go off. This guy's like, Officer Rivera, Officer Baba, they can restore trust, and it's not abandoning it. Like, he, fucking trash motherfucker, fake news spewing, Jim Crow loving, Havana syndrome perpetuating piece of shit. For the record, doing this because YouTube did not allow me to do a live stream, so I'm gonna upload this after. All right, YouTube censorship is going through the roof. This might not even get posted. I'm gonna keep it 100. They already warned me one time about I had to take down some video because something. I left it up. So then they hit me with, you can't monetize your channel. I mean, money is evil. The love of money leads to more evil. So I'm good. But it's just funny how capitalists hit you where it hurts more. You know? Your pockets. Now this guy's over here on fund the police. Super capitalist, because innocent victims aren't getting killed enough by these gang members in blue. I mean, there's gangs within the police departments. We know this. Over here, there's in LA County, we got at least 4 famous ones, and they've been going on since the 70s. All right, like gun trafficking. Who's the biggest gun trafficker in the goddamn world? Oh wait, that's us, the U.S. My bad. All right, I meant the small guy. I meant the small guy, not the big guy making the billions of dollars selling weapons across the world to brutal dictatorships like Saudi Arabia, etc. No, I'm talking about the guy that's trying to sell 1, 2, 3 guns on the street and make a couple $100, a couple $1,000. That's who I'm worried about. I'm not worried about these guys sending missiles. Come on, people.
Look, repeal the liability shield. It makes gun manufacturers the only industry in America that can't be sued. The only one.
The only one, you lying piece of shit. What about these pharmaceuticals that can't get sued now for effects of their products? This guy is such a bullshitter. This guy's a goddamn lie. I fucking hate liars, man. I hate liars. And this guy, I think what makes my abhorrence towards liars even more is that some of these motherfuckers know they're lying and they double down on that shit. Like, if you're saying something and you're wrong, or you make a mistake, okay, cool, I can forgive that. But these motherfuckers are making money off of the lies and doubling down on these lies. So if I keep talking like this, then the Democrats will keep clapping. Let's see who he wants to honor.
Justice Breyer, an Army veteran, constitutional scholar, retiring Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Justice Breyer, thank you for your service. Thank you.
My opinion on the Supreme Court, those should not be lifetime appointments. All right, this guy's over here thanking a guy because he spent all those years in his position. No, you know what? That should be a position that is an elected position, honestly. Not a selected, not an appointed position. You want to be a Supreme Court justice? Go ahead, run up against everyone else in the country that wants to be Supreme Court justice. Let's check your merits. Let's go ahead and put you in for a certain length of time, not a lifetime appointment. Fucking lying ass. Oh, this is a democracy. Oh, so we get to vote? Well, you get to kind of choose people that vote for you. Wait, what do you mean? I thought this was... Well, it's not a democracy. It's a republic. Oh, so I get to vote for people. Well, actually, you're voting for representatives that then kind of vote for you in the electoral college. Look, just don't concern yourself with politics, okay? Hate Russia.
By Democrats and Republicans. Folks, if we're to advance liberty and justice,
look, man, this motherfucker got me close to saying, let's go, Brandon. That's how trash this guy is. And then to top it off, you have Bernie Sanders, who's basically now just cucking for this guy. You know, like, oh, Joe Biden, my good friend Joe Biden. And now he's on that Russia tip. And he was on that anti-Venezuela tip. He's lost all moral credibility. Wait, what did he say about Guatemala and human traffickers? I thought Kamala was over there. And she clearly told them, do not come. She went over there and she gave them a very inspirational speech. All right. Did you guys forget the inspirational speech by Kamala Harris over there to the poor Guatemalans? She inspired them. She said, do not come.
Businesses have workers they need. And families don't wait decades to reunite.
Me listening to Biden's talk.
It's economically smart thing to do. That's why the immigration reform is supported by everyone from labor unions to religious leaders to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Let's get it done once and for all. Folks, advancing liberty and justice also requires protecting the rights of women. The constitutional right affirmed by Roe v. Wade, standing precedent for half a century, is under attack as never before. If you want to go forward, not backwards, we must protect access to health care, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health care for all Americans.
This is going on 46 minutes, and this guy really hasn't said anything. All he's doing is he's touching on some of these cultural issues. You know, he's like, all right, I'm going to talk about the LGBTQIA community to make sure I have them. All right, let me talk about immigration. Let me make sure I get the Hispanic community on my side. All right, let me see. Who else do I need? Oh, yeah, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, look, I got a vice president that's black, and look, I'm appointing a black judge. You know, economy's the shit. What can I do? Economy's the shit. We're gonna make jobs. Yes, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make jobs. Yeah, good one. Yeah, what else? Yeah. I know he wrote it, but it's so ass that, I mean, he could have winged a better one. Well, actually, I don't know if Weekend at Bernie's could have, you know, just pulled one out of his ass. Honestly, this type of bullshittery has to be written down. You know, the Democrats are so bored of this speech. Even they themselves are like, all right. Like at first, they were like, yeah, Biden, fucking Biden, yeah. And right now they're like, yeah, okay. That's the loudest I heard them in a while right now. But before that, they were like, fucking time.
Harm reduction and recovery. Get rid of outdated rules and stop doctors. And stop doctors prescribing. Stop the flow of illicit drugs by working with state and local law enforcement.
Illicit drugs? The biggest drug pushers in this country are called doctors. Stop focusing on these low-level peddlers and focus on the real code. If you want to really wage a war against drugs, jail the Sackler family. How about that one? You're playing games with someone that, man, you got this twisted, bro. This dude is an embarrassment. How can you not be embarrassed as an American to have this guy as your president? I'm a registered Democrat, and I'm saying that.
Harms of social media. As Frances Haugen, who is here tonight with us, has shown, we must hold social media platforms accountable for the
social media is in a spiral downward. All right, you can't post. I can't even post a live video. That's how scared these dumbasses are. I can't even post a live video. If you go on Twitter and you start spewing facts, they'll put you on timeout. They'll put you on they'll permanently put you on this little timeout thing. Eventually, if you retweet something, they'll put a message on there. Additional information might be required for something, or this source is from other governments, kind of like completely controlled. I mean, I literally screenshot that message that I got on YouTube before I got on, and before I had to record it to then upload it, because these idiots just keep. I mean, it got to the point where Biden is so ass and YouTube is so pro-Democrat and establishment, they got rid of the dislike button, because every time they spoke about the vaccine, the mandate, or Biden's dumbass uttered one word, the dislikes went like this. All the way up. All right, it was like 400 likes to 4,000 dislikes. It was ridiculous.
Iraq and Afghanistan over 40 times. These burn pits that incinerate waste, the waste of war, medical and hazardous material.
Iraq, you mean the war you voted for? The illegal invasion on the country of Iraq that only led to murder, death, and destruction, but it also led to massive profits for the war profiteers. Okay, the Raytheons, Lockheed Martin's, Boeing, the services, the vice president's company, Halliburton, Kellogg Brown. It was a bonanza for all the private military contractors, khaki, Blackwell, all these, the corrupt components of the American structure benefited from it. But who paid the cost? It was the poor soldiers. It was the American taxpayer getting built, his taxpayer money, so it could get funneled all the way back to the donors and the consultocracy and the shareholders of these weapons manufacturers. That's basically what happened. But here we got, President Squinty.
Building Legos with their daughter.
Huh?
With cancer from prolonged exposure to burn pits ravaged Heath's lungs and body. Danielle says Heath was a fighter to the very end. He didn't know how to stop fighting, and neither did she. Through her pain, she found purpose to demand that we do better. Tonight, Danielle, we are going to do better. The VA is trialing new ways of linking toxic exposure to disease, already helping more veterans get benefits. And tonight, I'm announcing we're expanding eligibility to veterans suffering from 9 respiratory cancers. I'm also calling on Congress to pass a law to make sure veterans devastated by toxic exposure in Iraq and Afghanistan finally get the benefits of the comprehensive health care.
I don't know if I should cut this off now, or if I should just go through the rest of this torture.
And fourth and last.
Fourth and last.
Cancer as we know it. This is personal.
That was perhaps the most unenergetic way to say that. And fourth, let's end cancer. Oh, you want to end cancer? Oh, look at you.
This is personal to me and to Jill and to Kamala. And so many of you. So many of you have lost someone you love. Husband, wife, son, daughter, mom, dad.
Let me go ahead and shoot for something that I know I cannot accomplish. But
announced the
No
plan
one
to
can check me
supercharge
on
the
it.
cancer moonshot.
I said I'm gonna try to end cancer.
Our goal
I
is to
failed
prevent
in ending
cancer
cancer,
deaths
but can you
reduce
blame me?
by
Was it not
50%
worth the
in the next
shot?
25 years. I think we can do better than that.
This guy is like,
Turn
he,
cancers from death sentences into treatable diseases. More support for patients and their families. To get there, I call on Congress to fund what I call ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, patterned after DARPA in the Defense Department. Projects that led DARPA to the internet.
What could possibly go wrong? Let's create a DARPA for medical research.
ARPA will have a singular
What could
purpose:
possibly go
to
wrong?
drive breakthroughs in cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes, and more. A unity agenda for
You know what you could really do if you want to be
our power, and
a
not
beacon of
partisan
liberty,
education.
freedom, and justice?
My fellow Americans,
Pardon Edward
tonight,
Snowden. Free Julian
gathered
Assange.
in this sacred space,
I mean, you can start there. Thomas Drake,
in this capital,
eliminate any charges. You know,
generation after
wipe
generation,
the slate
Americans
clean.
evaded great questions,
Donziger,
made great strife,
wipe that one
and
clean.
done great things.
I mean, there's a lot that you could do, but
Expanded
you're
liberty,
gonna try to finish and
debated
end cancer.
totalitarianism and terror. We built the strongest
Sounds like a winner.
and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Now is the hour, our moment of responsibility, our test of resolve and conscience, of history itself.
Well, I don't want to bore you guys anymore listening to this
That our
bullshit.
character of this generation is formed.
It's about to finish, though. It's almost time for his nap, so
Our future is forged.
so it's all it's past. Let me see.
Well, I know this nation.
Yep, it's past his bedtime.
We'll meet the test.
It's past his bedtime. It's about 10 o'clock
Expand
in the
fairness
east
and
right now, so
opportunity.
he's
And
about
we
to
will
yawn.
save
Call it a night.
democracy. As hard as those times have been, I'm more optimistic about America today than I've been my whole life, because I see the future that's within our grasp. Because I know there's simply nothing beyond our capacity. We're the only nation on earth that has always turned every crisis we faced into an opportunity. The only nation that can be defined by a single word: possibilities. So on this night,
Look, man,
our 245th
not financial advice.
nation, I've come to report on the state of the
Dollar
nation, the state of the
going
union.
down,
And my report is
inflation
the state of the
going
union is
up,
strong because
instability
you, the American people,
going
are
up.
strong.
Get you some cryptocurrency.
Stronger today,
Get you assets that are going to appreciate in value.
and we'll be stronger a year from
That'll
now
probably be the
than we
best
are
thing you can
today.
do. In about
This
5 to
is
10
our
years,
moment
you'll thank
to
your
meet and
current
overcome
self.
the challenges of our
Because
time.
the way
And
this
we
is going,
will, as one people,
this
one
is a
America,
sinking
the
ship.
United States of America.
And this guy's over here yelling,
And
God bless America and may God protect our troops.
go get him.
Go get him? Go get who? Who the hell you talking to or about? Anyways, that was perhaps one of the worst State of the Unions I've heard. Not only that, it was so late. It was in March. Most State of the Unions are January, February. So I really don't understand where this was coming from. It's like it was basically winged. Let's see what Crystal Ball has to say.
With the Ukraine piece, that's clearly the route that he went to.
Yeah, that's right.
There was no
very top and everything else.
Yeah, there was no reframing of the rest of the speech. It was, we'll get the Ukraine piece out of the way, and then we'll go to effectively the laundry list of what the agenda.
He actually did it incorrectly, if you see that, because he started with Ukraine. Obviously, he should have actually outlined everything, and then at the end hit with Ukraine, because that's on everybody's mind, and it would have been more of a speech. The thing is, he said the most exciting part first, and then he dragged the whole shit on. So just it just yawned everybody to sleep.
The NATO border, it is a tripwire, and we will mount our full force and power, defend every inch, is what Biden said. And then another one, trying to allay fears of a general nuclear war. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
All right, let's see.
Our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event that Putin decides to keep moving west. For that purpose,
I told you when he said this already. So clearly, he understands he's messing with the real country this time. He's not gonna. It's not like Yemen or Iraq or any of these countries they could just run over. You know, he clearly said, "We'll help Ukraine and we'll help our allies if Russia goes over to Europe." Yeah, he knows his place. He knows his place. And NATO, of all, is coming closer and closer to disappearing. It's an anachronism of politics created to stop the Soviet Union, which doesn't even exist anymore.
Those are really important there in terms of both the NATO commitment that's being watched obviously in the Kremlin, and then the second
it was being watched with tears in their eyes from laughter. If I was Putin right now, I'd be laughing at this speech. Like, I got this motherfucker. That's right, bitch. Straight up.
What were your general impressions here?
So I got two things that I thought were very negative, and then one thing that I thought was positive.
Let's see what Kyle Kuklinski says.
A lot.
Well, yeah, it's Bumbling Joe. What you expect?
No taking away from that.
Listen, it's hard to watch. There's just no denying that.
Yeah, so that was a negative. The other negative thing was, especially in the second half of the speech, it was just a lot of standard politician fluff. I was getting so aggravated because he was going down basically his list of Build Back Better agenda items, and he was saying, we ought to do this, we should do this, we should do that. You didn't get Build Back Better passed. You didn't propose standalone bills on that. You didn't break out your executive order pen to do any of that. So it's just literally a virtue signal speech. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have to agree with him on that.
like the more you know,
even though Kyle Kuklinski is on the Ukrainian propaganda tip. And you saw what he did with the TYT versus Jimmy Dore thing. So his credibility, shaky. He's off my trustables list. Who's on my trustables list? Well, you got people like Max Blumenthal, Jimmy Dore, Graham Elwood, Whitney Webb. I mean, there's a couple bangers in there. You know what I mean? Lee Camp, Abby Martin. Yeah, there's a couple. You know, there's a couple respectable people out there for us. Don't feel discouraged because perhaps you don't know of them. You know, because they don't get any shine in the mainstream media, but look them up. You'll get more of a wider view. Read a couple books on American foreign policy written by leftists, some Michael Parenti, some old Noam Chomsky, because new Chomsky has Trump syndrome still. He's got COVID brain.
That was not received well by the Republicans in the audience, but I actually think this may have been one of the best moments for Biden of the State of the Union speech. Let's take a listen to that.
Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the previous administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind.
That's a good contrast. It's one they should be making all the time.
An undeniable fact.
Yes, and I mean, it's just factually accurate. They should be making that sort of.
And that's probably the one point that he made, that and when he said that he comes from corporate America. Those were the two most salient points.
But he didn't go into that in too much detail. To me, the biggest problem is, what are people really going to take away from this? The Ukraine part, I think, that's going to stand alone. He made some news there in terms of the U.S. and their allies are going to release 60 million barrels of oil from strategic reserves. Also making the news that the U.S. is going to ban Russian flights here in America. And, the strength of the message there, I think, is
cool.
Kind of stands
well, I mean,
beyond that,
pretty much. You guys saw what happened. I mean, I let this run for about over an hour. Wasn't expecting this to go so long. Thought I was gonna get on, do a live while Biden was talking. Unfortunately, I had to do it like this. I'll try to upload it. I don't know if it's gonna get shadow banned. But definitely thought it was important to give you some commentary while that thing was going on. So with that said, I appreciate you guys, and you know, let's keep fighting for truth. And I'm out.